Welcome to Beyond the Crunch, the Mindfulness Game Plan. Real conversations about mindfulness, wellness, and the habits that drive better performance at work and in life. Now, here's your host, Ulrika Eriksson.
Welcome to Beyond the Crunch, the Mindfulness Game Plan. I'm Ulrika Eriksson, Syracuse Crunch Mindfulness and Wellness Coach. On today's episode, we have someone very special with us. He is an entrepreneur, he is a speaker, a philanthropist, and he is a big advocate for mental health awareness. He is also one of the main sponsors for Syracuse Crunch Mental Wellness Program. So excited to have with me today, Vinny Lobdell.
Hi, Ulrika. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Vinny?
Fantastic. Great to be with you.
I'm so happy to have you here. This today, it's like a little heavier what we're talking about, but it's so important because it is, that's the stigma of, or maybe the knowing that it's okay not to be okay, right?
So, sure.
I would like to, if you don't mind sharing your story of your brother, Rusty. And if you can
absolutely.
There.
First, Vinny Lobdell, great to be with you guys today. For those of you that don't know me, my family were born and raised, I was actually born in Central New York, raised in Pulaski, New York, a great small town community. We had the typical blue collar family. I had a younger sister and an older brother, Rusty, all very active and loved sports. My father was an entrepreneur and my mother was a stay-at-home homemaker. And we had what everyone would think is a very typical upbringing. We weren't rich, we weren't poor, we were right in the middle, and my parents worked very hard to give us the best life we possibly could have. And right around the time my brother was 16, I guess it was 16, I was at the time 12, and my sister was 10, we started noticing a big change in my brother. Again, he was very active, played football, played baseball, was a great athlete. And my parents really struggled to figure out what was going on with him at the time. And he was, a really good looking, well-built guy. And so everything from the outside appeared to be perfect. And again, my mom and dad both very focused on raising the family and doing all the things they needed to do to keep everything moving. But they saw a rapid deterioration in my brother. And at the time, I guess this was almost 28 years ago, it was very difficult to get the help that was needed. I mean, we didn't have locations that had, behavioral health centers, et cetera, locally. And so my parents exhausted all resources. We're spending a tremendous amount of financial, spending a ton of money on getting my brother the right help. And they ended up sending him down to White Plains at Cornell Medical Center. And they really couldn't understand what was happening with my brother. Again, I think as a parent now of 5 and 1 on the way, I just saw my mother suffer, and I couldn't imagine going through what she was going through because, again, my father was working every day trying to put food on the table. My mother was at home, and her whole world was us 3 children. And she was at a point where she just didn't have answers for my brother. They medicated him. They did a lot of different things. And what ended up happening is they sent him home. And we thought he was improving. But then again, 28 years ago, my brother took his life by suicide. And it was one of those things where for so long, my family couldn't talk about it. It was a very, very challenging time. My mother actually found my brother. My brother was still alive. And she couldn't save him. And so, I think people always ask me, what happens when something like that happens? Do you ever recover? And I always tell people, I don't think you ever recover. When you lose someone that is part of who you are, you lose that piece forever. But you can absolutely improve, and you can move forward, and you can do things that improve the situation. But my mother, she never has really recovered from that. She's a wonderful mother. She takes care of me and my sister, and she does all these wonderful things for the family. But at this point, she still struggles with it today. My father as well. They worked very hard to keep our family together and to do all the things that they needed to do. But it was a very, very challenging time for our family.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And as a mother too, like I totally agree. Like that, I don't know if you can ever recover really from something like that. You probably learn to live with it, I assume, but.
Well, I think the thing that my mother had to, challenge with is, again, once you lose someone like that, it's a part of you that's gone forever. But my sister and my father, and it brought us was very difficult for a few years, but then it brought us closer as a family because we knew we had to kind of rally around the situation to make sure we were there for my mother. And for us, as we grew as a family, at the end of the day, you start to realize that really all you have in life is your family. You have a handful of few friends that come and go in your life, and you're lucky if you get a few of them to stick around. Um, but the reality is your family is all we have, and that's why I always emphasize to people: you really never know how long you have. The people that are in your life that you love, and it's really, really important that you make sure that you go out of your way to let them know all the time that they're important to you.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with you. To be present, right? To
Yeah,
live
yeah,
now, because this is really when life happens, is in the now,
yeah,
because we
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
what the future holds.
Yeah, I've seen it so much, especially over the last 4 or 5 years of my life, where people would always compare themselves to other people, and they would live in this lifestyle of, especially nowadays with the internet and everything. We have all these influencers, and we have all these people out there that we want to be like. And the reality is that's the quickest way to depression, is when you're comparing yourself to others. I mean, we have to live the life that God's intended us to live, and I think if we focus on, how to really make ourselves better every day, that's really how to live the best life possible.
That couldn't, I totally agree with you with on that too. And with social media, I think I'm not against it, but social media is always on a good and bad, right? And I feel like that's, FOMO, fear of missing out and
Yeah.
wanting to keep up, and people are not really who they really are because you put on this
Oh
mask
yeah.
or everything is
It's a
supposed to be good. So it's hard
it's a
to,
yeah.
go through feelings.
It's a real chasing after the wind. I think it's an escape from loneliness. I've people always kind of laugh at me because I've never been on Instagram, I've never been on Facebook, but I think it's probably the only way I've been able to keep the limited sanity I have. Is not trying to compare myself to others all the time. I really believe that is the quickest way to not feel adequate. And the other thing we always talk about now is also not looking for our happiness through others, right? And really taking the time to focus on our own peace of mind. And that's not necessarily happiness or sadness. It's finding that middle ground where you can find peace no matter what's going on in life, whether it's good or bad. You feel good about where you're at because you have the ability to work through those issues.
So we're uh, talking about you, like personally, going through what you have, and I'm assuming learned a lot through this whole process on good and bad. Are there any specific things you do for yourself, like on a daily or basis, or maybe like that's very important to you for your own well-being?
Yeah, I mean, life is a grind. Life is messy. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter how beautiful or good looking or how much money or how little money you have or who you're born to. I mean, let's face it, the more resources you have, I think the more choices you have. And I think that for me, it's really starting my day the right way. And it's hard especially when we have kids and we do other things, because ultimately it's no longer just your day, right? You're waking up and you're
Right.
starting your life, and your kids are, at 5:30, 6 o'clock wanting you to play Barbies or do whatever it is. And, but I find that if you really start your day with the focus of gratefulness, you wake up and you say, how many blessings, no matter what's going on in your life, there's really only two ways of looking at every situation, and only one way moves you forward, right? And that's positivity. And I've found that every day I wake up, and even if I'm going through a tough time or things aren't good in my life, I always try to find some of the good things, because no matter what, there's always goodness that surrounds us. And if we focus on that goodness, I think it manifests other goodness. And I've also found, for me, we always talk about giving and philanthropy. I don't really like the word philanthropy, but I like the word giving. I think philanthropy kind of puts this out of reach person out there that's philanthropic. I think anybody can be philanthropic. I think you can be philanthropic with time. I think you can be philanthropic with money. I think you can be philanthropic with many different things. And for me, what I've found is I feel it's like the most selfish thing you can do is give, right? You can go, I love cars. You can go and buy a new car, a new Ferrari, or a really new, nice car. And after 3 or 4 months, you're like, I don't know if that was really, why did I do that? And if you go and use your resources and help someone, it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. It's one of those things that really just continues to spread kindness. And I've found so much joy and satisfaction and almost selfishness in giving and helping other people.
It's such a great thing. I'm really big on paying it forward too, like helping people, and it's kind of having that movement where you keep on giving. So
Yeah.
it's really, truly so beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about your family foundation that you have? It's the Lobdell Family Foundation, because I know your
Yeah.
family
So
is very involved, right, in this as well,
my
I
mother
believe.
and father, my mother and father are really paramount key to this. One of the things we really wanted to focus on is the reason why we named the mental health facility in the hospital in Oswego the Lobdell Family, the Center for Wellness, was it wasn't to put our name on a building. Really, why we wanted to do that was we wanted to memorialize my brother. My mother thought that people were starting to forget about my brother and forget about his story, and two is really to celebrate my mom's perseverance and everything that she's meant to us as her children. She's someone that's just endured, 30 years and still today deals with it. Again, as a father, I can only imagine going through what she went through. And we wanted to make sure that no one forgot about my brother and everyone celebrated my mother. My mother's like Mother Teresa. She's one of those women that would take her coat off her back for anyone. And really, my father's the same way, the most humble, kind people you'll ever meet. And really would go out of their way for anyone. And wealth hasn't changed them. It's only accelerated their kindness and giving. They've given when they've had little and they've given when they've had a lot. And so the foundation that we're setting up is really focused on a few things. One, programming. One of the things we've done with Onondaga County is make sure that we can educate educators and first line responders on warning signs of suicide and all the other things, depression. We're looking at working with the Upstate Foundation, all the wonderful things that Dr. Bob Corona and Dr. Dewan and all these people are doing at Upstate. It's just amazing. And, to think about that Hutchins and those places were some of the first places in all the country for behavioral health for adolescents. We have so many amazing things that have happened here. And really now we want to use our resources and bring people to the table to help fuel a movement that helps us reduce the stigma around mental health. I mean, listen, we're never gonna defeat mental health, right? I mean, it's something it's so individual and it's something we all face differently. But if we give people the opportunity in the mouthpiece to speak out about what's going on, we'll be much closer to solving more problems that people have. We're working on mental health software with a company called Clinicom. It's a business that we're very passionate about. My father and I have invested a lot of money, time, and resources in really creating technology. We have a real systemic issue here, right? I mean, let's face it. 1 in 3 struggle. We have nowhere near enough resources, traditional resources, to help these people that struggle. So we have to use technology to enhance how we treat, enhance how we, I don't want to say segregate, but how we really look at who's really needing the help the quickest and the fastest. And that's really what we're working on now, is programs that can really help us with that.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I do think that things have gotten a little better in this, and it's shining more light on the mental health in general compared to what it was years ago, even when this happened to your brother, like you go 30 years back. But I feel we still have such a long way to go.
Well,
And
it's people like you, Ulrika. It's people like you, Howard. I mean, Howard Dogan, who put this forward and really believed in this. I mean, I'm one person. My family's one family, and it takes people and organizations. It takes their strength and vulnerability to step out and actually talk about it. And what we found is when we shared my brother's story, thousands of people reached out to us. Some of the most prominent people in our community, and shared their stories and said that our story gave them a lot of hope and a lot of purpose. And I think that it's something very difficult to share, right? Because on the outside things can look fine. But on the inside, it may not be. And I think the more we share that it's okay, like we always say, that the saying goes, it's okay to not be okay. Just little things we can do for people, smiling at them, asking them, and genuinely sitting down and engaging with them and asking them how their day is going. Writing a thank you card. One of the things I'm trying to be more mindful of is that when people go out of their way and do kind things for me, is letting them know how much I appreciated it. Again, it doesn't come down to money. It's more how we engage with people and let them know that what they do matters to us and what surrounds us matters. And I think that's the other issue we're faced with. And I tell people that I coach, if there's one thing, one skill I could teach young people, my son is a perfect example. I echo this to Noah all the time. The best skill you can move forward with is emotional intelligence and talking to people and letting them know that their time and effort and matters and that you're grateful for it. And I just see that slipping away from our youth. It's slipping away because they're so engaged in other things, and we're scrolling and we're on TikTok, and we're not focused on how we can really engage from a human to human perspective.
That's so true. And I noticed that. I'm sure we all do. But, I travel a lot and being at airports. You see everyone sitting on their phone. You can
Yeah.
have families, everyone is there, but they don't talk to each other. Everyone's
Yeah.
sitting doing their own thing. And granted, like I said, there's a lot of good things that you can find and learn. I find like a lot of courses, a lot of things I find through the internet in this way. But we kind of have lost touch with just being and communicating and talking, and just what you're saying, the beauty of life, and just being there listening and engaging.
Yeah. And we want to be busy. We want to keep our minds busy. We want to get away from the distractions of our lives that so often create drama and conflict, and it's what I found is I was looking at my phone the other day, and it pinged up and gave me a notification that I had screen time of over 13 hours. And I sat there and I said, whoa, I'm most at fault for it. And what I find is when my life is messiest is when I'm not present and focused. And it's because, I certainly create my own challenges, right?
Right.
But it's one of those things where the busier we get, the harder it is to break away. And I've tried to move my mind from being less busy and more focused on the things that matter most. And I think that starts again, what you asked me the question is, how do we start our days? Being purposeful with how we start our days is so important. Not grabbing the phone right away and scrolling on TikTok and Instagram and all these other things right away, that sucks your energy away from all the things you need to be focused on to start your day productively, and moves it over to things that are probably other people's agenda.
So true. I'm so with you on that because I totally believe in setting the tone for the day,
Yeah.
kind of having a routine, whatever it is that works for you. And I think that's so important. Like I love to meditate in the mornings. I always have like a little bit of time for myself, lighting a candle, meditating, and sitting in peace and quiet. But everyone is different. So it's finding that whatever works that you resonate with, that makes you feel good, that brings
Yeah.
positivity into the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree
So that's
completely.
so good. I want to go back to, you mentioned Noah, your son, very
Yeah.
special young man who I've been very fortunate to have done some speaking engagement with, and I know he's at Syracuse University, member of
Yep.
the basketball team, and sophomore
Yes.
year coming up, right?
Yeah.
So he's also very involved and very passionate about mental health awareness. Can you tell us a little bit about what he does, and also, being at that age, how he can talk to and influence younger generations
Yeah,
differently?
Noah is a very, very special kid. Again, not perfect. He's got his own struggles, but he's someone that, I think, again, going back to the thing that I'm most proud of with him, is his empathetic approach to life. Here's a kid that comes from fairly significant means. He's a walk-on at Syracuse basketball. He's had to deal with his own struggles with that. A lot of nepotism with people that have talked negatively about it, and on these anonymous websites and stuff. And I just shared with him. It was very hard for him at first. I share with him now that he's really gotten strong and really overcome it. That he's so focused on making that program better. He's so focused in playing his role to be the best he can be, so his teammates can be the best they can be. And now he's just in a really great mindset, and he's focused on, again, achieving the best. But with him, he went through his childhood wasn't perfect. Certainly I was a guy that was middle class, and his mother, we got divorced when he was 4 years old. So he spent the last 15 years of his life in a separated household, and that was, I'm sure, very, very difficult for him. But the thing that's made me, again, most proud to know is he definitely looks at life from a positive lens and says, hey, all of us deal with a certain amount of things in life, but how do I focus on the things that I can control and not the things I can't, and move forward in a positive way? And he's really done that. He's really focused on reaching out to kids in his age group. We just had this big summer slam, and we invited some kids that maybe struggled with behavioral health, or maybe struggled with physical needs, etc. And Noah was really supportive and brought the guys around him. And I think Noah doing that shows some of his teammates that there's a lot of satisfaction you can give with serving others without expecting anything in return.
It's so important, and what he does is
Yeah.
incredible. And being that he's the same age, I would think would hit. And you talk a little different. You're like on a different,
Yeah.
mentally, like everything. So he can communicate in a different way with these
Well,
younger
this is the
kids and
really
college.
pivotal, this is the pivotal time for what, especially for men, is that, 16, and it's even gotten earlier because of the consequences of social media. And again, I agree that the internet and social media is good if used properly, but, I've seen the impact it's had even on my younger children, right? But, that 16 to 28 to 29-year-old range, when men and women are looking for, purpose and looking for substance, and they tend to drift. And it's not where they could disconnect at a school level and go home and have their parents and their family surrounding them. Now you've got bullying from, 5 in the morning till 24 hours a day. People are pinging you, they're DMing you, they're doing all these things and sharing nasty messages. And again, I've shared how even Noah, who most wouldn't think would get bullied, he's had that happen to him. And I use that as a perfect example to say, if you're getting it, how do you think a lot of other kids are getting it? And this is where you need to be strong and you need to support others. And you need to make sure that no matter what, you're always kind to others. And I think that's the real measure of a human, is how they treat other people, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how much you have, it's how you treat other people. And I think that you see people that have a tremendous amount and they spend time with people and they go out of their way to make that person feel important. And that's the one thing I try to instill, and my wife Susie and I try to instill in our children, is that no matter what, be kind to others, because we never really know what they're going through.
Oh, so true. It is so true. And everyone has a story, and we don't know, what happens behind closed doors. And
Yeah,
kindness and compassion it is so important.
yeah,
It's
it's
everything.
true.
Yeah,
I
love.
know what I go through in my life on a daily basis, and I've traveled the world and I see what others go through, and I've talked to people in confidence and I see what they go through, and the beauty of everything is that we don't have to go through it alone. We have this, I think, a beautiful, the one of the positive things about the internet is there's beautiful connections that you can reach out to, and sites that you can reach out to, and people that you can talk to. And really, we never had that 10 years ago, right? So although this problem is exacerbated and gotten worse, there's so many more resources, there's so much hope. And I think that the one thing that I'm so excited for and most hopeful for is that there will be continuous improvement with tools that give people more hope and more hope for a better future and a better day.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. And I do think one thing, good thing that with the algorithm, I do find like on the when we go to social media is that you can kind of see what you are consuming or not consuming, not eating,
Mm,
but consuming and listening to and watching. Because if you get a lot of bad things, that's kind of like where what you're clicking. So if you have positivity and good, so you can kind of monitor that a little bit yourself and try to switch. It's not always
yeah,
easy. And I know when you're younger too, and I know what you're saying, and I totally agree with that bullying, because now it's a 24/7 type thing. It used to be, I
it
remember
is.
when I was in school, you left school and you were good until the following day. Nobody was going to
Yeah,
bother you. But now it is nonstop. So it's
and
a lot to deal with.
it's much more vitriolic too. It's very divisive, and the things people can say, and
Yeah.
you know that's why we have to guard our children, and we have to make sure that we spend our time, you know, talking to them about what's important and how to treat others, right? Because I really think that's the golden nugget of success moving forward, is that if you can really spend time learning about people and engaging with people, even though AI is here and we think we're replacing people and all that, I think there's going to be this huge gap of opportunity for people that really want to go out of their way and help others. I think it's going to just really be something special.
Yeah. No, I'm positive. I always think there's like more positive than negative. It's just, a lot of times the light's been is shining on the negative. So we gotta keep it positive. And also family time,
Oh
like
yeah.
being like with you. I know, like you're saying, family is so important to you and so many, but you're spending more time together and really listening. Because I think a lot of times we don't do that. It's kind of, we hear things, but we don't listen.
Yeah, what was weird for me, when we first sold our business, we had sold the business twice, and we were talking, you and I, offline about this, is what happened for me is I kind of found this place of comfort. And I realized quickly that the most dangerous place in life is the comfort zone. You start to not really I was always very driven and wanted the best for everyone in my life and all my friends and family. And it's been my challenge over the last 2 years to really step outside of the comfort zone and get back into the game and do the things that matter most to me, because I was lacking purpose. And I actually found myself for the first time that the lack of purpose, because I was in the comfort zone, because, things were somewhat easy financially, that I lost my sense of purpose. And I started to slip into a little bit of, not depression, but I wasn't the person I knew I was meant to be. And so, I always tell people, make sure, you don't fall too closely to the comfort zone, because that's something that can be very dangerous. We need to do hard things every day. We need to stretch our mind. We need to stay relevant. We need to stay purposeful. And if we do all those things, I think you say, what are some of the things you do? That's what I try to do every day. I try to do some things that are very hard. I try to keep my body in shape. I try to keep my mind in shape. I try to be a good dad, which is, to young kids, is really hard. I think men, I'll generalize here. I think men are really good at sprinting. I think women are better at the marathons when it comes to kids. For me, 1 hour and I'm ready to jump off the pool house here. So it's one of those things that I've learned that it's really hard for me. And the other thing I would tell people, and this ties into my brother's story, and it ties into everything that I've done that I'm not happy with in my life. You got to stop regretting the past. And I think that it's one of the things, if we continue to live in the past, and always worry about the present, we're never focused on what's in the middle. And I think everything good in life happens in the middle. And I think that if we're really purposeful, and it's hard, but many steps, right? Many steps. I do this every morning. I go and I sit in the sauna and I talk about what I need to work on. And if we focus on what's in the middle, everything good happens there. Even with me selling the business and thinking that, we had this great movement, I miss what was in the middle, the grind, the journey, everything that was there, the days we'd walk in and we'd have these big outcomes, or we'd struggle and then come back from it. Those are the things at the end of the day that create our lives. And it's the presence in the middle that gives everyone, I think, it gives us what we are.
Beautiful. So it's the journey. It's
Yeah.
not just the final destination. We can have goals and dreams and all that, but if we don't pay attention, if we're not there in the moment, we miss out on everything.
And we all have baggage, and we all have stuff that we're not happy that's happened in the past. But we have to shed the negative people. And I'll tell you that, again, this is simple stuff. The people that surround us matter, right? And if you have a bunch of negative naysayers, people that aren't truly committed to your success, they may think they are, they may say they are, but and deep down, they really, the more successful you become, the little more hatred builds up. You just got to focus on surrounding yourself with the best people and moving forward.
Yes. Be careful with what you consume. I always say that, like everything, the people you surround yourself with, not just the diet, but what you listen to, what you watch, like everything. When you start to really pay attention to that, you can really tweak things in your life.
Yeah, that was our tagline in the air quality business. I mean, we were selling something that people couldn't see, right? We were selling clean air. And so we'd always say, what surrounds us matters, right? What we consume, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the people we listen to, the stuff we take in from the internet. It's really, really important stuff. And we have to certainly limit what we take in.
I want to ask you too, is there someone special that has like inspired you, or someone you look up to, or like maybe multiple people?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had so many people that have invested in me in my life. I mean, first, my mother and father, right? I mean, my father's shown me that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but if you're willing to do what others aren't from a work perspective, you can achieve anything. I wasn't the smartest person in the room, but no one would outwork me. No one. If it meant me going to China tomorrow morning for an 18-hour flight and having a face-to-face meeting to make sure we secured a deal, I did it. And I learned that from him. I learned that, if you're willing to do what others aren't, you're willing to achieve and have what others don't. And my mother, I think from an empathy perspective, it was a really great balance being raised by them, because my mother was someone that money never mattered. It still doesn't today. It was always, how are you treating other people? And, I think that, someone else that's been very important in my life is my wife, Susie, who, we have been married now 9 years. We have our third child on the way, and she stepped into my life through a very difficult time. I was divorced, had 3 other children. never tried to mother my kids, always just tried to support me. And that was hugely important to me. And I was going through a really hard time with my business. Our business wasn't good. So I was traveling all the time. And, she stayed by my side when I had nothing. And that was really, really, really important for me. Another person, Joe Masterleo, who, believe it or not, was a counselor that helped me through a lot of my life. When I was going through challenging times, I would always see him. And he always told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And I think that was really important because a lot of the times I'd be jealous of other people, I would try to live in other people's lives, or I'd try to undermine things. And what you start to realize is when you live that way, you only get the negative reaction and negative response. And Joe really helped me see things from a perspective of, hey, don't feel sorry for yourself. Self-pity is the worst thing you can possibly have. The only one that's going to create your life and your happiness is you. And no one else is responsible for that, right? At the end of the day, no one's responsible for Eureka or Vinny Lobdell to be happy. Right. It's us. We have to roll up our sleeves, forget about the past, don't worry about the future, and just work every day to become better versions of who we are.
Enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
So be present. So true. I want to ask you too, I'm very big on quotes. Is there a quote that's special to you, or maybe a saying you live by or something? It doesn't have to be favorite quote, but
no, there's a ton of them. Yeah, my favorite one is tough times never last, tough people do. And I think that resonates with everyone. I think that no matter what you're going through, if you're willing to go through it and you can get through it, you become a better version of who you are. I really think all of our difficulties shape us into who we are and make us better versions of ourselves if we have the right perspective. And so I've always focused on it. I actually had it printed on t-shirts and brought it to all my friends, tough times never last, tough people do. And then, I love be the exception. I think so often everyone wants to fit into a cube and be like the next person or be like this influencer. And I really think being the exception is just, it demonstrates everything that I hope to be more of. And, I think the best word in the English dictionary that if we can master, it creates success. It's one word. It's really simple. It's the hardest thing to do is discipline. If we're disciplined in anything, in our marriage, in our diets, in our friendships, in our work life, in our gossip life, if we're disciplined not to do the things that we shouldn't be doing, I think you get the best outcome, but it's the hardest thing to do. And so I just challenge, every day, I have to watch things to stay disciplined and to stay focused.
It's so great.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap things up, but I want to see how our listeners can connect with you. If you want to give that, and also if there's something else that we haven't talked about, you want to share or promote, please.
No, we have some really great things going on. I think people will be really impressed with the Lobdell Family Foundation. We've got a great group of people that are getting behind it. The goal is to raise $25 million in 5 years, all for programming in the Central New York and surrounding areas. So we will be kicking that off shortly. And for me, I just, however I can be helpful to the community, whether it's through the Syracuse Crunch or Upstate or the many foundations we give to, it's important for people to, have hope. And we're really fortunate to be in a position not to only give our time, but to give our resources. And, I think to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I think you guys can expect a lot more from the Lobdell family in years to come.
And how do we connect with you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, you can connect. I do VinnyLobdell.com because I don't have social media. So right. It's through VinnyLobdell.com, or you can reach me at LinkedIn under Vinny Lobdell as well. And I'd be happy to connect. We've got a team looking at a lot of inquiries, and we'd be happy to look through things and see if we can be helpful to anyone that's searching.
Fantastic. So grateful to have you here. No, your energy is incredible, Vinny. I always love talking to you, and you're doing such a beautiful job in the community. Syracuse, and really all over the country.
Well, it's a real team effort. I got to tell you, my mother and father give me the ability, and my sister, of course, and my family, they really give me a lot of strength.
So nice. Family is so important, right? Always goes back to family.
Yeah. I really appreciate the opportunity, Ulrika.
Thank you so much. Okay. Very, very much appreciate having you here.
Great.
And to all our listeners, thank you so much for being here with us. I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It is, "We hear so much, we do not listen. We look so much we do not see. Until next time, peace, love, and light.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Crunch, the Mindfulness Game Plan. This podcast is made possible thanks to the support of Amerique Credit Union, Inova Marine Insurance, the Lobdell Family, Marcon Companies, the New York State Office of Mental Health, Pinnacle Employee Services, Todd Roich and Family, Upstate Medical University, and the Syracuse Crunch. Be sure to follow and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And keep your mindset in the game.